This is 1480 KRAE Cheyenne.
Also being heard on translator K266CC Cheyenne at 101.1 FM.
It's time now for something new for you. It's KRAE Reports, a week in review. And now let's check in with our program right here on 1480 KRAE Cheyenne. And good morning. Welcome to KRAE Reports, a week in review. Larry Peroletti, along with Nick Peroletti. Again, we are still fighting off the bug. I would assume, Nick, that both of us are feeling better. I just, for some reason, can't get it out of my throat.
I'm not 100%, but again, going to the doctor about a week and a half ago, again, learning that it was, or at least got tested for what is mono. So, again, understanding from that it's a long-term sickness, kind of the long kind of COVID. Again, we don't have COVID, but again, I would assume you have the same situation of mono, where, again, it's kind of that one time you get it and you don't have to worry about it for the rest of your life. But, again, it's sickness that lasts for a good couple weeks, or at least from my understanding, it was like you're kind of infected, or again, you get hit hard with it for about a good 6 weeks, and it could linger on. Again, similar of what happened with Sam Darnold with, again, your Jets quarterback, where, again, he sat out for an entire season due to mono. Again, it was just that situation where, again, it can last for however long, again, as long as it wants to. So, again, I feel 95-ish percent. Again, have a couple at least kind of clogged nose and all that good stuff. But, again, it's kind of the path of recovery. But, again, there's nothing either of us can do. So I would assume we have the same illness, since, again, we got sick around the same time up at the state tournaments up at
that first weekend when we went on the regional. And again, too, not throwing any blame at Nick. Again, as I was telling a lot of people, when we were up there, you're running in and out of venues, that cold wind coming off the mountains there.
You're also, too, dealing with, again, a swath of people that also, too, are sick, teenagers that are sick.
But, again, 60-mile-an-hour winds. It was absolutely cold up there. We're running in and out of Casper, Natrona. We're out of Sweet Erickson Gymnasium. We're out of the Ford Center the first week. The next weekend, we're back at Natrona, and we're back at the Ford Center. So, again, in and out, running back to hotels. The weather was just not conducive up there, too. It just was absolutely awful. But like I said, I've got it here in my throat. I feel great otherwise, so I feel like the sickness is gone. Anyway.
And who knows with the temperatures, and again, the wind, and again, the up and down. So as we deal with this interesting winter time out here, which, again, does extend on, where, again, we just had frigid temperatures a week ago. Again, here we are now approaching 70 degrees here in town. So, it is what it is. But anyways, as we are back, again, missed show last week, again, was out in Los Angeles with WrestleMania, again, back. But, again, we'll get into at least news stories that we did miss, again, here in the abbreviated show. Again, normally 2 hours, but, again, an hour just to save his voice and a little bit of mine, too. But, again, as we'll get into an interesting past week, I would say, especially here in town. Again, we'll get the state stuff, especially over what's happening in Laramie at the University of Wyoming. But here in town, again, we saw about 100 and so odd miles, again, 140 down south in Colorado Springs with the active shooter situation down there. Again, at a school, it's
transgender.
Well, and again, outside of that, but again, we're seeing these school shootings pop up and creep up again, which kind of hit home to an extent here in town. It was more so of a false alarm, and thankfully that's all it was a false alarm over Cheyenne South. Again, Cheyenne Police Department coming out, again, talking about that situation, saying that it was kind of a call-in hoax, so to speak. Again, still looking after, again, who did it. But, again, thankfully it was a false alarm, but kind of prompted up a few scares here in town, where we had, at least after that Cheyenne South situation, Cheyenne Central at the top of a controversy, so to speak, where a social media post about another high school that was kind of in that Central name. Again, I kind of mentioned with you, again, we've been down to Greeley Central, but again, it's Central High, Central High here. Again, Central, at least a social media post regarding a Central High out of state from 2021 regarded, again, a potential school shooting there. folks here in town recirculated that post, thought it was Cheyenne Central, and prompted a little case of an alarm. And again, Cheyenne Police Department also too kind of just said, hey, let's just keep an eye on Central just for now to make sure that this is nothing that's going to happen. And then on top of that as well too, with all this going on here in town, I do believe in between the Central and South situations here, I do believe they did an active training. This is Cheyenne Police Department did an active shooter training, at least response at East Ridge School, again, formerly the old KRAE Junior High. So Cheyenne PD keeping on top of things right now as, again, it's becoming it's a serious issue here in, again, across the nation, but now hitting home here in the state of Wyoming. Again, Cheyenne was not the only city as well, too, that got hit with some of these hoaxes or these call-ins. I do believe Casper, Sheridan, if I do stand correctly, again, there was other cities here in the state that got hit with it this past week of those kind of hoax active shooters, at least shooting calls.
And I talked to a friend of mine at the Sheriff's Department. Again, you're going to get a lot of, quote, copycats from the Nashville, Tennessee shooting.
Yeah.
You're also going to get, again, sick jokes. And I'm sorry. I mean, those that they think they're funny, and they're not. I mean, they're absolutely sick in their mindset for startling people like it is. But again, the response.
Well, and again, who knows if this was a teenage prank or was an actual serious threat? It's something that, again, in this day and age, especially for the Cheyenne Police Department, again, also too,
got to take everything serious.
Yeah, you got to take everything serious. So again, kudos to them to keep at least South as safe as they can. Again, trying to avoid that situation, and obviously you got to imagine that for police department. Again, not to speak for Chief Francisco and again the department here in town, but got to imagine that they're on high alert for any instance of a potential active shooter.
Well, you think back to Texas last year. That happened right towards the end of the school year. We had that situation in Nashville, Tennessee here a couple 3 weeks back. The thing that really irritates me about the Nashville, Tennessee situation, and again, you kind of focus it a little bit here in Wyoming. Sometimes you're really glad you live here in this part of the world. And again, we are on top of it. But in Nashville, Tennessee, 6 people were killed, 3 children and 3 adults. But it's almost like they're trying to forget about the victims and focus more on the shooter, not so much making the shooter a martyr. But it's almost like,
well, you're trying to figure out why, and you're trying to figure out again what the causes,
they want to know the manifesto and all that. But let's focus on. That's the problem these days. We're forgetting about the victims. And again,
well, in a 24-hour news cycle, again, even with the Nashville, Tennessee shooting, again, it was something that it was here for a little bit, and now it's you hate to say it's kind of an afterthought, again, just in this day and age of news and technology, of how quick things are processed, that, again, that's second thought. That is, and especially here in town, you got to imagine that Nashville, Tennessee immediately got out of everyone's minds again with the Cheyenne South situation, or at least, again, the hoax of an active shooter. It's something that, yeah, it's unfortunate, but that's just, for whatever strange reason, as human nature, again, we more focus on how and why, not so much of grieving or at least thinking about those who were lost. It's more so of, why did this happen? How do you prevent it? Again, it's all X, Y, and Z on top of that. But, again, you talk about being safe and sound here in Wyoming, which, again, I would agree with, again, the situation of, again, the Cowboy State. But this is a state that's right now gaining a lot of attention, a lot of ears and eyes here of what's happening here in the state. Again, we mentioned a couple weeks ago with the transgender bill, at least for, again, at least female athletes in this school system here in this state, that, again, effective July 1st, as of right now, will not participate in female athletics here in this state. So, again, that's a bill, even though we were not the first to do it. Again, we fall in line with, what was it, about 19 other states that, again, are passing that through. But, again, you have that situation right now that are going to bring a lot of eyes and ears and attention to the state. Again, whether positive or negative, it's going to draw a reaction. Then, as we'll talk about later on, again, the UW situation with the sorority lawsuit, again, about accepting a transgender, at least sorority member in. Again, it was the first, I do believe, at least in a collegiate level, to do something like that. Now you have this lawsuit that, again, allege a lot of things against that individual, and it's starting to become an ugly mess over there in Laramie regarding the University of Wyoming. So that also, too, is bringing a lot of eyes and ears, negative, positive, whatever it may be, but it's bringing eyes to the forefront here in the state of Wyoming. So, again, that active shooter, at least that call-in, or, again, the hoax, and, again, I'll just use that terminology regarding South, which, again, thankfully it was just an alarm, not the active thing. But it is something that, who knows if there is someone outside of the state threatening those things to, again, schools within the state just for those incidents right now that are happening on a political level within the state's borders right now.
Well, let's attack that first part. The thing is, here in Cheyenne, and hopefully in Wyoming in general, being proactive, not reactive. And one of the proactive things is, and we forget this, we do have school resource officers. So we do have them on patrol or active in our high schools. And if I'm not mistaken, in our junior highs, I don't know.
The grade schools, a little murky on that one.
I'm not for sure on that. But again, we're being proactive, not reactive. The second part, going back to the transgender portion that you had mentioned, it's interesting to note, and again, of all of the transgender stories that we hear from across the nation, and it's more of the males transgendering into females, right?
Mm.
And participating in sports where the women now are going, hey, this is not right. But you notice that we haven't had that story yet of a transgender woman moving into the male body where they have not, been even noticed in sports. So let's be real honest. Males are built a different way from females. I think we'll agree on that.
Yeah.
And they're bigger, faster, stronger. I think we'll agree on that.
Yeah.
So you and myself had this discussion a couple weeks back. And again, you want to be transgender, that's fine. If your parents, again, because you're under 18, you're still a minor. If your parents agree with that, great, terrific. I'm not going to sit here and throw stones at people that want to switch sexes or body parts. But as I said before, Nick, you have male, you have female participants.
Yeah.
Open up another class. Why can't you have a male, female, and transgender class, for athletics?
Well, and again, this is getting off topic, and again, we'll
No,
talk
but
about
I know, but
I'm just saying again. I brought up the transgender, at least issues here in this state, or at least kind of the news, at least kind of making its waves here in the Cowboys state. That again, we go back to the Nashville, Tennessee. Again, what was the topic of conversation regarding that shooter? And again, it was, hey, they are transgender. They had that manifesto. They were upset about the Tennessee law. That, again, this is not at least spoken for all transgender, or at least individuals, but it's something
who gives that person the right to go to that school, even though they supposedly had attended that institution. But what gives them the right to go to that school, open fire, kill 3 innocent kids that have nothing to do with that person's
I don't know what kind of question that is. Again, no one has a right to go and shoot up.
Right.
Yeah,
See, and again, what they are doing, they're trying to declare war on innocent people.
Well, and this is where you got to be careful. Where again, it's not every transgender individual out there. Again, we're starting to see those extremists. And again, with the Nashville, Tennessee shooter, again, some of those social media, at least entities that we've been seeing as well too, that have come out with their manifestos and kind of saying, "Hey, go after," or again, we need to attack these states. Again, that's you got to imagine an extremely small percentage. That again does not speak for the entire at least population of transgender, whether it's male to female, female to male, does not speak for all. But again, you are starting to see those extremists. But again, that's kind of why this kind of gets tied into with Cheyenne, with again Wyoming. That again with the recent shooter down there in Tennessee, again it was the top of conversation. Again, it was a transgender individual that was upset with law, decided to take at least matters into their own hand to kind of step up. And now it kind of ripples. And again, it does bring a concern here to Wyoming. And again, obviously it hit home last week with, again, the call-in hoax that prompted, again, fear at Cheyenne South, prompted the police department to kind of get in action. And here we are where thankfully nothing has happened here, but it's something that in this day and age and how tumultuous things are becoming, that you kind of it brings up the question of it's not if, but when.
One, you also mentioned a key word, extremism. Why are they going to those levels? You mentioned the Colorado Springs incident.
They're trying to make a statement, clearly. Trying to make it, again, what is going to bring attention to whatever cause you're bringing, that's going to do it.
But the transgender movement.
And not saying that is right. That is far from right. But again, if you go in the mind, or at least if I had to analyze that, again, why did that shooter, again, any shooter, do what they do? You're trying to make a grandstand statement.
And you know what you do? You kind of set back the movement.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
Again, a transgender person or group are a minority. And what they should do is read the history of how minorities, whether it's race, whether it's
sex,
creed,
clearly.
whatever. My point is, read your history, how you go about making changes. See, that's the problem. None of these people have a clue on education. They think they're going to take the law into their own hands and they're going to be martyrs, and and all you're going to do is set back the movement.
Well, yeah, again, clearly, again, that's with any movement, as you've seen in past, but again, history is doomed to repeat itself, as we see on many levels. But again, regarding at least kind of the minority, or again, regarding transgender, it's something that, again, it's a select few out of the percentile, again, of those that, again, think on that extremist level. You are seeing those, again, of the transgender, again, do the peaceful protests, or, again, go to whatever governing body and, again, talk about, again, these bills, again, notably here in town when, again, that Senate bill was passed, or at least talked about. Again, you did see a swath go over to the Capitol building and voice their opinion on that. But, again, it's something that I think, plain and simple, from my aspect and my opinion, this is more of a mental health crisis in this country. That, again, you're seeing kind of disturbed individuals think in different ways, go to these extremes, commit these acts, and think that they did what was essentially God's work, and, again, is initiate change. No, it's something that I think, plain and simple, what we have, it's not a gun issue. And again, I will stand by that. Again, with any school shooting, with any club shooting, this or that shooting, the Vegas shooting, I think it's more so of, again, you got a mental health crisis in this country, or at least in this world right now, that, again, needs to be addressed. And not just chemically. Again, it's got to be something that ties to parents, to, again, therapists, to whatever it may be. That, again, this is, I think that is something that we as a nation, and again, as a government, or, again, a state body, a city government, whatever it may be, you got to address the fact that, again, it's a mental health issue.
Well, again, and I'm not going to argue the fact that it's a mental health issue, but also, too, these extreme acts that are being perpetrated right now by those that don't want to abide by the rules or the law, to me, you throw the movement, basically.
Oh, yeah, it hurts, yeah.
And again, you've lost my respect. Okay? I don't care. And again, I would hope that the parents are involved in these decisions for those who do the transgender thing. Most of them do it as they're 18. But the thing is, when you go and shoot up a school, similar to Nashville, Tennessee, as far as I'm concerned, you've lost my respect. And then you want to come to me to make change? It's not going to happen. Like you said, right there, it's more of a mental health issue than it is a body part issue. And right there, I think all of these, again, go to the Colorado Springs situation. That sets the movement back. You're fighting for notoriety. Right now, I turn my back on you.
Which again, you could equate to even with, and again, as he's made news of recent, again, with at least a trial ongoing, but again, with President Trump, where, again, look at where you have a select few within his supporting group that, again, cause at least a great fear or, again, a great concern. Again, I'm talking more kind of on that supremacist side, but, again, does not equate to all Republican voter, or at least, again, Trump voters at that time. It's something that, again, on any side or, again, you can bring up almost any argument where, again, you can kind of put, again, even go with, again, with the all cops are bad kind of movement that we saw during the pandemic time. I don't agree with that, at least, argument. Yeah, there's probably a small minority, a percentage across this nation of cops that, again, are corrupt or abuse that power authority, without a doubt. But not all of them. I certainly don't see that here in Cheyenne or, again, across this entire state. Again, I'm not saying there aren't few individuals possibly out there within this state's borders, but, again, I'm not going to assume that every cop is bad. But again, it's those select individuals that cause these issues, that cause that kind of bad, negative press, and that, again, is something that, if anything, of who's to blame. Well, I'm going to say who's to blame right now is national media.
Well, the national media and those elected officials. See, here's the thing. Where you talk about the defund police movement that happened after the George Floyd incident. And then I think the situation in Atlanta. Again, a couple, 3 bad cops were involved in it, and they are doing the time for it. But here comes the KRAE, defund police. They do it in some locations. But then all of a sudden crime runs rampant.
Yeah.
Who's the first ones to gripe and moan about it? The elected officials who voted for defund police. And who has the most protection? Those elected officials. So again,
and like I said, we can talk to ourselves, at least talk until we're blue in the face, where, again, we know, I hate to use the term, but, again, the enemy right now, again, to us as U.S. citizens, to, again, those average Joe, at least those who, again, just want to work, earn a living, and again,
and
that pursuit of happiness, and, again, screw taxes, but
you have to pay them.
Yeah, whatever. Again, the IRS doesn't deserve it, but it's a situation that these politicians, these puppet masters, these national media conglomerates that, again, tell you what to think, again, tell you what to do. It's something that, until we get out of our minds, again, get away from that we're just going to continue that cycle. And, again, things aren't going to get better until we find a way to say, hey, puppet master politician, get the hell out.
Yeah.
National media, I don't believe what you say. Again, I'm not going to, if anything, again, you trust sources like us, or, again, your paper, or whatever it may be, the local TV station that, again, hyper-focus on what is the reality on the streets.
Well, and here's the situation. Again, we're going national. I want to get off the national. In Chicago, where Lori Lightfoot.
Well, she's out.
I know, but basically she had her head in the sand and said everything was great. But yet,
well, that's a situation where, again, Chicagoans were upset with her and said,
"You're out of here." And that's exactly what you're saying. I agree with it. We
look at what happened here in this state again with Liz Cheney.
I know.
We're done with
it. And again, we need to start standing up, because, again, here's what's happening in D.C. We're getting pretty damn close to a banana republic, where we got to do everything they tell us. There is no autonomy anymore. So the Chicago step was a step in the right direction. Like her or don't like her. But she obviously had no clue what was going on in her own community.
Yeah.
So the only way we, you, me, can take care of these situations is that we have to go and put an X by a name. That person, Lori Lightfoot, or somebody better that you believe will get the job done.
Yeah.
And that's the only way we can get change taken care of here in the country.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
But again, it's a cycle that's going to continue on, again, just with the whole puppet mastery of, again, what we see on the political side, again, with national media that, again, it fuels a fire. Again, you brought up again why we don't think of the victims before we talk about the situation with the active shooter or, again, whatever it may be. Again, that's fueled by the national media. That's more of, hey, cares about the victims. We want to know why this was caused, or the madman, to fuel our agenda. Again, whether it's Fox News, whether it's MSNBC, whether it's CNN, whatever national media head it may be, again, how do we spin this to, again, help our cause, hurt the opposing cause? Again, you got to read between the lines. That's why, again, for Fox News, for CNN, all that other crap, again, the national newspapers, all that stuff, don't bother. I don't bother with it because, again, it's garbage. Again, they clearly have agendas.
Again, what I believe, and this is not political, what I believe is the victims matter more to me than the person who committed the crime, because as far as I'm concerned, the country is devoid of one less clown.
Yeah.
But those 6 people that lost their life, that matters to me.
I think it matters to a lot of people.
Yeah, and that's what we need to start focusing on, are the victims, not the clown that perpetrated the crime.
Well, guess
and
what?
that clown is getting all the publicity.
Well, again, it starts on the national side where, again, before they got to stop it on that. And, again, are they going to anytime soon? No. That's the unfortunate thing. So, again, it's kind of as you vote for your politician, you got to, at least on a TV side, kind of vote with your wallet, or, again, not at least tuning into those entities and giving those viewership ratings. It's more so tune away and watch them crumble. And I think that's the only way you're going to have to do it is, again, step away from them. And hopefully, again, in some way they got to change for the better or go away for the better.
Well, hopefully one day they will all vanish, because, again, what I learned back in college, and, again, going back to the days of journalism, reporting, mass media, whatever is being taught today at universities, state colleges, are not the books that I read from.
Well, journalism, it seems like nowadays, is kind of moving into that yellow journalism or more opinionated, where, again, instead of stating facts, it's more so of how do I spin it into a message or something like that. That's what you're starting to see on that national side.
And, back in the day, Nick, and this is even before you were born, we used to gripe and moan about the National Enquirer, how silly it was, how made up the stories were, how sensationalized they were.
That's a tabloid.
But guess what? What do you think today's media is? Tabloid, sensationalized, without fact. And again, too, you just sit here and again, you just kind of throw your arms up going, what the hell?
If anything, again, as much as they're corporate owned, and, again, they're not state funded, again, as we see with, like, Chinese media, or, again, with Russian media, or whatever it may be, again, CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, again, they might as well feel like they're state affiliated. Again, have that kind of state, at least, funding, or, again, and, again, I talk state as a national, again, kind of, at least, could you make the argument that
they never very rarely, CBS, NBC, ABC. Do you ever? Those are the 3 major networks, and, again, then you have the 24-hour cable news networks. Those, except for Fox and maybe Newsmax, who are off to the right, and the rest are off to the left, but they all say they're in the middle. How many of them have really, let's talk about the 3 major networks, have really put Joe Biden to the fire? If you ever watch a press conference, I've never seen such cream puff questions being thrown at an 81-year-old man who's been in politics for 50 years.
Well, you can make the same argument on the other side. Again, it goes with Trump, it goes with Obama, it goes with any president that we've seen. Again, go back to the Bush years, but that, again, on that national media side, again, where's the praise from that right side? Again, and again, I can't give you specific examples if they have or haven't, because, again, I do not watch the crap, but it's something that, again, you can make that argument of, again, you talk about why aren't they so hard on him, but also, too, why aren't this entities on the other side giving him praise when praise is due, if at all.
But he's also the leader of the land. So if you have a situation like Nashville, Tennessee, And what's the first thing he comes on and says? We got to get we got to go under gun control. Well, again, guns don't kill people. People kill people. That's the old phrase. And until these leaders step forward and say, hey, we got problems. I need to tackle these problems. I got to make this country, I don't want to use the word safe, but we got to make this country livable for everybody.
Yeah.
They're not doing it. And what he does is he goes and hides in his Delaware basement. And again, then he gets thrown these softball questions. Again, questions like, hey, gun control. Again, I don't have a gun. These people are coming up with these unbelievable weapons. How do they get them? I'd like to know.
Again, who knows? Black market. Again, obviously there's sales across the border. Again, Mexico. Again, who knows what the ways are? Again, it's not like you go walk in a corner store and buy an AR-15 or anything like that. No, again, there's processes. We know that again, to obtain kind of those larger weapons, that again, it takes time. It's something that, again, it gets evaluated. So is it something that, again, borrow from a friend? Are you skilling it? Are you doing this and that?
Don't know.
Who knows right now? But, yeah,
All
again,
right.
I would agree, again, where guns aren't the issue in this country. I don't think guns are the issue across the entire land.
I think you said it best.
It's people.
Mental health.
Yeah, it's mental health.
Mental health has gotten way, way out of control, where we have institutions and we have outlets, but people aren't taking advantage of it. Now, again, is that something that is done through the courts? I don't know. Because, again, if I have problems, I'm not going to go down the road because I know there's an outlet down the road here.
Yeah.
I'm not going to check myself in. Somebody's going to have to do that.
Well, someone's
for
got
me.
to step up. Yeah, clearly. Again, someone in
That's-
life has got to act up and, again, speak out and find those resources. So that's kind of the key thing, is you got to be proactive instead of reactive on these situations. And hopefully that is the change that is kind of needed, and hopefully it becomes a reality. Again, make note as we need to take a break and get to our other news stories.
Yeah.
But, again, go to the Laramie County Jail. As we talk with those representatives, that came in and said, hey, these programs we are implementing, again, focusing on mental health. We want to rehabilitate these guys, these individuals, in the right manner to, again, make them, return back to civilian life, to not recreate or go back into a criminal life. It's more so, let's address the problem that is not so much, again, drugs, but why are they on drugs? Why did this happen? Again, it's more so of, let's get them the therapy that is needed. And I think, again, let's be honest, again, every single American, and again, every single human on this planet probably needs some sort of therapy in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a deal with stress, deal with work, deal with life, deal with money, whatever it may be. Again, therapy is probably needed for,
And
again,
not
most.
everyone's going to complete the therapy.
Or
I mean, it's not a perfect-
or
it's
in
not a
some
perfect
ways,
world.
again, you can't afford it as well, too,
Yeah.
with cost. But
I'm
it's
just saying
hopefully,
it's not a
hopefully
perfect
it's
world.
hopefully it's a push forward that, again, we don't address the gun situation. It's more so the mental health issue, and again, find a way to at least up the resources, make it affordable, or make it more prevalent out there of how do we address that to make sure that this doesn't happen.
Well,
Proactive instead of reactive.
well, and you go back to, quote, the manifestos. We need to find out why. That's the one question we can't find out, is why do these things happen? All right, let's take a break. We will be back. Cheyenne lost a wonderful public servant here a couple weeks back. I'll talk briefly about it when we come back after this break. You are listening to KRAE Reports, a week in review, back after these words.
Hop into the KRAE Time Machine each Monday through Thursday for the golden age of radio, featuring famous radio classics such as Jack Armstrong and Suspense Theater, along with pioneers in the entertainment industry like Bob Hope and Abbott and Costello, along with many other performers who've captured our ears many, many years ago. Join us for the golden age of radio Monday through Thursday, 8 until 10 p.m. on 1480 KRAE, also 101.1 FM, and you can also stream all of our programming on 1480krae.com.
Cowboy football fans, season tickets are on sale now for the 2023 season. The season schedule features the home opener against Texas Tech, along with conference matchups against Colorado State, Fresno State, New Mexico, and Hawaii. Season tickets start at just $170, so don't miss any of the action as the Cowboys return to War Memorial Stadium this fall. Renew or purchase your season tickets today at GoWIO.com/tickets or call 307-766-7220.
Check out the huge savings this week at Town & Country Supermarket Liquors. Here are just a few of the terrific weekly specials. It's your one-stop to shop for these Super Radio buys, heard only right here. Jose Cuervo Especial, gold or silver tequila, 1.75-liter bottle, $29.99. Svedka Vodka, 1.75-liter bottle, $16.99. And Bud Light Seltzers, all available varieties, 12-pack, 12-ounce cans, $15.99. Town & Country Supermarket Liquors on the South Greeley Highway, Cheyenne's low-price leader.
Hi, I'm Ronnie Deutsch, and if you or your business owe money to the IRS, I've got great news for you. Tax laws have changed. Billions of dollars are earmarked for IRS Fresh Start programs, and if you qualify, you can literally save tens of thousands of dollars. Listen, I know what you're going through. Call me if you want to speak with a tax attorney or tax professional for free.
800-247-5196. That's 800-247-5196.
Here's the latest weather forecast on 1480 KRAE.
Otherwise, for today's sunshine, expect a daytime high near 67, mostly clear tonight, a low down to 40. Sunny again for tomorrow. We're calling for a daytime high near 76, mostly clear Tuesday night, a low down to 44. And for Wednesday, continue mostly sunny. Expect a daytime high near 76 degrees. We welcome you back to KRAE Reports that we can review. And Cheyenne lost a gentleman who was mayor for a couple of terms, a city councilman for a term. Leo Pando passing away here almost a couple weeks back at the age of 77. And I first met Leo when I was dating your mother. Or, as a matter of fact, I met Leo at a Christmas party for the Cheyenne PD. Matter of fact, Leo was already retired, retired detective, as a matter of fact. And Leo, he lost a daughter. Matter of fact, Dry Creek, that's behind us. His daughter Joelle was one of those victims killed in the 85 rain flood that happened here. But the man, I guess the easiest way to say about Leo, there wasn't too many people that did not like this man. He was a very personable individual. I always liked, and somebody asked him of it one day. He would be on the radio. As a matter of fact, I was over at an AM station in town, and we used to do a talk show. And he would be on, and he would say, "Well, Larry, this is going on with the city council," and Larry, and everybody would go, "Why does he keep repeating your name?" And Leo told me, he said, "It's a way for me to always remember who I'm talking to." He had that much respect for the person that he was talking to. And again, during his time as mayor for the city of Cheyenne, and you were still very young at the time, I think 93 through 2001.
Yeah,
I think Cheyenne enjoyed its best times. This was a man who was dedicated, to the drainage situations that we had.
Yeah.
He was a man that was dedicated to the downtown area to bring some revitalization to downtown, because it struggled. It struggled for many years from the time I got there in 86.
Evidently also, too, again, at least, again, reading the article that was posted off in the Wyoming Tribune Eagle about Leo Pando, again, I don't have much to speak on. Again, his term as mayor, again, was, when I was still in grade school. So, again, met the man, again, as a child, but outside of that, again, did not know him all that well. But, again, reading the article, again, as you mentioned, downtown revitalization, again, same with with Depot Plaza as well, too. So, again, trying to at least, beautify the city, as we know, especially that downtown area that kind of gets neglected here and there. Again, as we see now moving forward, that again, it's being added to more and more especially as businesses now get inside that building and again around it as well too. But again, Leo Pando also too. Again, Pando Park, as we know, just right down on.
And we kidded with Leo back in the day. We called it Pando's Pond. That nice park.
When it was heavy rains, again, that drain did not want to work.
Yeah, it would fill
up. It works fine now.
But the thing under Leo Pando were retention ponds. And there's a lot of these ponds here in town that, thanks to Leo and the work with the city, got along great with the staffers. Matter of fact, he had an executive assistant, Joe Doherty, who also was a city councilman from Ward 2. I know a lot of people, including myself, gave Joe grief. It's like, well, Leo runs the city. Why does he need you? But, it was a good working relationship. And I think in my time here, in 37 years, I think the city was at its best under his leadership.
Yeah.
So, again,
especially looking at some of the former mayors we've had, where again it was past iteration. Again, Jack Spiker as well too. Again, as you describe it, again, reading that article as well too, and again all the other at least various articles that have been posted about Leo over the years. Again, it sounded like he was politician second, but again a Cheyenne resident.
He was a people person.
Yeah. Again, it sounded like he was kind of boots on the ground. Again, it was more so of, hey, I'm doing what's best for not me. Not for the city council, but again, doing best for what is city of Cheyenne.
Well, what he did as mayor, and again, I'm not knocking any of the other mayors. You needed Leo Pando, he was there for you. And again, too, what he lent to this community was caring. Because again, he was a resident. He came from a big family from the South Side. So he knew all about Cheyenne.
Yeah.
And again, community service, being a worker for the Cheyenne Police Department. So again, this was a man who, even after he retired, gave his public servant life to the city to make it better. And I think as Leo has now been memorialized and now is no longer with us, this city is so much better for having him as one of our leaders during a very short period of time. And again, we had 4 years city council, we had 8 years as a mayor, and in those 12 years under Leo Pando, a lot of things got done and right and properly.
And obviously, again, city, at least years ago, took care of at least memorializing him with Pando Park. That, again, we know the infamous, again, as you go down near downtown, again, that just the hole with the tennis courts and everything. It's beautiful, but it did have its issues early on with the flooding. But, again, be interested to see what the city council, including Mayor Collins, does, at least, if anything more, again, whether it is, naming a street after him, again, especially with such a celebrated figure like that here in town's history, again, do we see, again, a street name change as we see other cities kind of do? Or, again, will he be memorialized in any other way here in town? Which, again, you hope so, especially with all the praise and all, again, every wonderful thing that you kind of hear about him, that will the city find ways to memorialize him more than just, again, Pando Park in downtown.
Well, and again, too, how do you memorialize him besides just Pando Park? Again, great public servant, great sports enthusiast. He had a couple of grandchildren that went through East High, if I'm not mistaken. We catch him out at the softball field. And like I said, he was always accessible. And again, you needed Leo Pando to talk about any issue. Whether you agreed or disagreed with him, he was there to present his side of the story. So again, I think this community lost a marvelous public servant, and to his wife, Sharon. Again, our thoughts and prayers are with you. And again, I think a huge loss to the city in Leo Pando passing away. All right. Let's move along. You had mentioned UW.
Yeah, which is making its
earlier.
Again, UW, which we brought in and talked about this at least topic for quite a few months now, again, whether it was the announcement of, again, being the first sorority to accept a transgender individual in, which, again, happened at the University of Wyoming. Again, we had the controversy as well, too, of, again, I do believe the preacher over there in Laramie that was setting up shop, who voiced his opinion against that, where, again, UW came up and said, nope, you got to leave our hallways. We don't want you in here because of this. So that was a topic of controversy. Now, of recent weeks, we're now learning that, again, that sorority that accepted this individual in, who also, too, went under at least a pseudonym, at least name that now, at least that name has been officially released by, that this sorority over at UW is now filing a lawsuit against this individual after, again, we talked about it a couple weeks ago of the alleged actions by this individual, whether it was, again, kind of at least ogling these females, again, attending these parties. Again, articles that we've seen, whether it was from the Cowboy State Daily, also through Laramie Boomerang, alleged that, again, the individual as well, too, again, attending these parties and kind of ogling these young ladies, also to at least having visible shown of an erection. So, again, arousal, inquiries about that as well, too, with those females that felt uncomfortable, now has led to this lawsuit by these individuals that, again, a part of the sorority, saying, hey, here's what happened. We're against it. We want the removal, and we feel like as if this was, I don't want to use the word betrayal, but again, they felt like the sorority system that accepted men shouldn't have done it in the first place.
And again, so what you're telling me is that they're talking out of both sides of their mouth. See, that's the problem we got right now. We got everybody talking out of both sides of their mouth.
Yeah.
Either it's good or it's bad. And that's what I'm going back. Boys, girls, transgender. I don't have a problem if you want to be transgender, but you cannot be that part of society. And again,
well, again, this is obviously, again, with this whole acceptance into the sorority, again, without knowing how that process goes. Again, when I attended college, I didn't care about a fraternity or sorority, at least a fraternity, I should say, but it's something that, again, this is something of a governing body that, again, you process this person, you decide to accept. Again, it's got to be, I would assume, kind of democratic in a way of, again, majority votes, hey, yay or nay, and there you go. Members now accept it in. But this, not saying transgender, again, male to female, female to male, can't be accepted into fraternities or sororities. It's more so of the alleged actions are the unforgivable thing. If this is true of the individual that is getting at least blamed in the lawsuit, if that individual did these things, that can't be happening. That, again, all of a sudden you're, in a way, and again, talk with a few folks, especially, again, spending time over there in Laramie, it's something that it's kind of abuse of the system in a way where, again, you're doing this to kind of cut a cost for your sexual fetishization of being within and doing this. Again, it's that small minority, as we talked earlier about, that, again, ruins the whole thing.
Well, and again, too, Nick, it's not biologically correct, okay? Again, male, female, fraternity, sorority. Where does transgender fit in? That's what I'm trying to bring to light. Where does transgender fit in? And again, we can't put them all under a mental test. I mean, obviously, they should go under some type of mental therapy because you are removing natural body parts.
Not all.
To a certain degree. You are changing your body to become a different, a different member. Again, you want to go from male to female or female to male.
Again, for me, the easiest answer to, again, you mentioned on the sports side, which, again, is for me kind of, I don't see ever becoming a reality, again, where you're saying, hey, male, female, transgender sports, where, again, they get their own classification. That's just not going to happen, again, especially with the amount of individuals, the percentage across the nation. That's just not going to happen. But, again, for on-campus life, for colleges, whether it is UW or, again, the various four-year institutions across this land, how hard would it be to just create a transgender fraternity sorority thing house itself?
I don't have a problem with that.
Is that an issue? I don't know.
No, it's not.
I see that as a simple solution in my mind, but again, there might be more cobwebs it can go through, and who knows what legalities or this or that. But again, that kind of makes sense to me of, hey, you get your own house.
So,
here.
and what you're saying, and I might be wrong.
And again, that might be also, again, as I think about that as well, too, again, that might also be
Prejudicial?
Yeah, a little bit. Where again, it's like
and again,
it goes
too,
back
Nick,
to the civil rights of it. And here's
but
white
also,
fountain, black fountain.
Again, there's going to have to be a new definition of quote civil rights, because again, you know, when we go back to the civil rights movement of the '60s, that was based on color.
Which is something that, again, this is also, too, where it gets really fine or really sticky on the details where, again, for civil rights movements back in the 60s, for color, hey, you can't change that. You are black, you are white, you are Latino. Again, it's something that you can't change. This is something
were male, female.
But I'm just saying, this is something also, too, where it gets really tricky on civil rights movement, again, in this day and age where, again, back then, you can't change who you were, again, whether you're African, American, Latino, whatever, this or that. You can't change the color of your skin. Here, this is something that folks are knowingly choosing to change their identity on a sexual matter. That they are willing to make this change. So that's kind of where it skirts lines for me. This is where it skirts lines for me of, again, they didn't have a choice. You are taking that choice.
And again, that should come with a price. Things that you must give up if you want to become this.
Again, giving up, I don't think is right.
Well, I'm sorry. I can't have males participating in female sports. I can't have a male move into a sorority. It doesn't fly. And again,
especially as now we have this alleged lawsuit, and we'll see this could take a long time.
I'm also mad at the sorority for even accepting that. I would have rather took my chances of that transgender person taking the sorority to court. I'd have took my chances in court.
And maybe that's why they did that, at least decision, to avoid that. I don't know. Again, in this day and age as well, too, with those college students, hey, we're trying to be progressive, inclusive, all this, kind of hot button word topics of the day, but it's something that maybe they were scared to get sued by this individual that, again, could argue up a civil rights issue. I don't know. Who knows, again, what was behind the scenes. But, again, this lawsuit of what it's alleged is concerning, is disturbing, and it's something that is going to hurt that movement as well, too, for those individuals that are honestly just looking to, again, live a college life in that way.
Every time you got a knucklehead, male, female, whatever the case may be, that is transgender, pulling some type of stunt, like at the sorority, or Nashville, Tennessee, or Colorado Springs, just to bring out three instances. It sets the movement back. They're not, if you want to be progressive and move forward, and again, I know you're probably saying, well, you can't get anything done. Well, what you have to do is do it quietly and do it in baby steps. No, they want to go from here, hey, I changed. I want these big changes. It doesn't work that way. And I'm sorry that those that have moved on to that transgender lifestyle, you're going to have to go through the same systems we do through government. You have to have it done legislatively.
Which is kind of a scary thing to think about, again, wherever state you are.
But to get the changes done, you have to do it that way.
Well, and that's where, again, stemming from this lawsuit, if these alleged, at least victims, again, from the sorority are true, if, again, it is accurate that this individual did those disturbing things within those sorority walls or, again, the parties or whatever it may be, who knows what the ramifications on a legislative side are going to be, whether it is nationwide or, again, here in the state of Wyoming. Is it something that, granted, all we have here is just a lone four-year university with UW. Again, JUCOs don't really have the fraternity sorority situation. So, again, all you would have to focus on is there in Laramie. But is it something that, if the lawsuit turns out to be true, that, again, those victims were truly victimized, is it something that Governor Gordon and this legislative body looks in and goes, all right, we're done, stamping it. No transgender anywhere. Again, whether it's fraternity, sororities, you don't have. Again, it's kind of, and I equate it to what we're seeing with the Senate bill right now, where, again, July 1st, no female, or at least, again, transgender, male to female, are not allowed in female athletics in this state. Right. That is July 1st this year. Could you see, again, if this bill, or at least this lawsuit, is found true and accurate, do we see the legislative move in a similar direction and say, hey, UW, within the state's borders, because, again, you are operating under state funding, you are not allowed to allow any transgender in a fraternity or a sorority. I can see that happening
for that,
if this lawsuit is true.
For that minority, the transgender, you may want to go back to the history books. And again, under the civil rights back in the 60s and 50s, go back even further. But again, Dr. King and others, it came with a price. Understand it. It came with a price.
A heavy price, yeah.
But as it went through President Kennedy into Lyndon Johnson, you got it all the way to the top. And through the Dr. Kings of the world, where they tried to do things peacefully, not blowing buildings up and burning communities, these groups of transgender, and again, I'm not saying all transgenders are bad. Don't want to say that. But if you want movement in your cause, you have to do it the right way. You can't do it by breaking the law.
You got to do it the right way, and also to condemn. Again, for those at least that want to speak up against the very vocal minorities. Again, the Tennessee situation, this situation, if it's true over in Laramie, again, for those that are trying to look for that change, you got to step up and condemn that. Again, you got to have a representative, whoever that may be, and step up and go, hey, this is wrong. We don't allow, ogling at ladies, again, having an erection and again feeling them sexually uncomfortable. We condemn that. The shootings, these manifestos that we're starting to see again, which is a minority, but again, it's something that you got to have that someone step up and say, hey, no.
And the sororities and fraternities are going to have to make sure it's in their bylaws. They're going to have those addendums in their bylaws.
Which I think with the sorority in UW, they did have that. Again, supposedly, again, reading through at least some of the articles, so we'll see. Again, this is a lawsuit that may take some time. The recent news regarding this lawsuit is that those individuals filing the lawsuit, again, judge over there basically said, sorry, you can't be anonymous just for X, Y, and Z of. Again, we want to make sure you're going to give us the full accurate details. Your names have to be included as we have included that individual that is at least being sued right now. So that's kind of the updated news right now, as those folks are trying to fight against that. Again, it sounds like the judge overseeing this case is not going to allow it. So we'll see. This might be in Laramie a good old-fashioned circus show for a couple months. This might, again, garner some national media as we see it unfold.
If it does garner, and if I think it's going to go the way it's going to set back the movement.
If the individual, again, that is being sued right now is found guilty and, again, has to make amends or whatever, yeah, it will hurt. It will hurt, yeah.
And, again, the transgender movement, can you suffer any more black eyes? How are you going to get where you want to be in life by constantly screwing up? And again, there's going to be so much fight back from us, from me, from women, men, that you know what? You're going to be a minority, and you're going to be in the closet the rest of your life.
Which I don't think is going to be reality.
If you keep screwing up. And again, trying to send messages.
But you say you, and again, it's not everyone. It's not all of them. That's where you're kind of getting into that 60s, 50s mentality.
That very slim minority. And again, in a situation that's not natural, Nick.
Well, again, the transgender, at least this movement, as you talk about, again, they take 2 steps forward. But yeah, again, as we've seen in a lot of these civil rights movements, hey, yeah, you take couple steps back, and again, it's something that it's a back and forth, but again, ultimately you want a positive change out this, where again, it's something that, again, these individuals that, again, do choose this for themselves still deserve equal rights within this nation's borders.
But they
plain and
also-
simple. Again, they are
they
protected
also have
under
to
again
follow
the
rule.
Bill of Rights.
Again, they're not special. Just because they changed, they're not special. They have to abide by the rules and the laws all of us do.
I get that. It's something that this is something that is clearly not going to be figured out overnight. This is something that's going to take time. It's going to take legislative sessions, and again, it's going to. We'll see what ramifications or what comes of it. Yeah, without a doubt, it's something that it needs to be processed. It needs to be analyzed. Again, we talk plenty about the sports situation where it's like there are biological differences that again do give a competitive advantage. We got to figure out a way to, again, make sure that they're not barred from playing sports, but they still can in a competitive sense that, again, all parties feel fair and equal. That's kind of the tricky situation right now where, again, it's going to take time.
They should not be allowed to, again, females should not be allowed to go up against males, and males should not be going up against females. Transgender.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to wrap up our program for today. My voice is about ready to fly away. This will re-air at 4 o'clock this afternoon. We'll be back. We'll try again maybe about an hour tomorrow as well. We will have the Pro Show, yours truly, along with Nick Perotti. So that's going to wrap up our program for today.
Very quickly, as we're looking at the Pro Show, again, we'll hopefully talk a little softball. Cheyenne East, Adam Galicia should be joining us. They're right now on the top, at least in Class 4A, or again, at least in softball. There isn't really classifications, but East having a red-hot start to start the season. Hopefully we'll talk also to boys soccer with Cheyenne Central, head coach Dirk Driscoll. Again, they're undefeated right now, I do believe, at least in boys soccer. We'll also talk Post 6. They're in action, got a couple wins down in Colorado, and again, I think two at least yesterday up here at Power. So we'll talk a little bit Post 6 notes. So again, a lot of at least springtime sports recap coming up tomorrow, and again, hopefully we'll be joined by a few guests as of right now. Again, confirmed Adam Galicia with Cheyenne East softball.
All right, that's going to wrap up our program for today. So for Nick Perotti, I'm Larry Perotti. Have a good afternoon. This is 1480 KRAE.